This video covered tips for being sub 1 on Megaminx. To be honest, to progress from like 115 all the way to like sub 40, most of the improvement comes from doing a lot of solves and just like learning, just developing intuition for certain cases. But I have a few pointers for each of the steps that I want to mention before all of you just start spamming solves. So for your star, in the previous video, I mentioned that you should have 4 of your 5 star pieces during inspection consistently. Well, for sub 1, now I want you to have 5 of 5. And one one thing to mention is that for your 221, because you're still going to be using that, you you can sort of develop ideas on how to on forming stars without having the pieces and the twos be adjacent. It's not really very difficult, but now at this point you should be pretty comfortable with just forming stars that it'll come pretty naturally. You just have to have a pretty good understanding of the F12 color scheme. Another thing for Megaminx stars is that to get to sub 1, you should try to limit your Megaminx rotations. It's kind of like something you had to do for like pretty much any step in cubing, but I think this applies a bit more in Megaminx because the Megaminx is kind of like a bit hard to rotate on when you're like introductory, and if you don't have a magnetic Megaminx or you don't have the best handling, then you'll just have like sloppy misalignments, and then that'll cost you a bunch of time. So in general, you kind of just want to aim for just a low number of rotations. One way you can do this is sort of like go in kind of like one radial cycle when it comes to inserting pieces into the star. So like what this means is if you have some piece, like let's say you have 2 pieces here, somewhere here, 1 piece here, and then 2 pieces here. If you start here, you should always go like I guess kind of like either fully clockwise or fully counterclockwise when inserting your star piece. You don't want to jump around and stuff because that'll might not cost you time, but it'll potentially make you misalign. Then that will definitely cost you time. Another idea to consider is if you have a pair, you should sort of try to pick an order for inserting your star pieces so that when you insert your last star pieces, the pair is right in front of you and you can just get straight into F12. This sort of plays into the previous idea because if you have a pair that you want to preserve, or like 2 F12 pieces that belong together, then the closest star edges to it should be the last ones you insert in, and then that kind of like forces the last step of what pieces you're inserting, and then you just kind of like pick the other two. For improving your F12 and S12, I don't have specific things that you should go out and learn, but I think one thing you should focus on is improving your fluidity of turning. This is because, as I mentioned before, improving from like 115 to beyond requires just a bunch of solves. So you really want to develop smooth turning and not rely on like super fast TPS to get good times, because using super fast TPS might work at home, but in comp when you're nervous, it might be it's gonna be pretty hard to keep up, and then you'll probably just get even more nerves at that point. So one way I like to practice this is just kind of just doing a lot of simple triggers. Like I'll start with finger tricks first. So the first few finger tricks that I've practiced are like just U2 with the righty, and U2 prime with the lefty. These are You especially need to know the U2 with the lefty because they're not the same. Righty U2 and lefty U2 aren't the same thing, unlike even though they are on a cubic puzzle. So those two first. Various you can have like various U inserts, like something like this, and this comes in handy too sometimes. But mostly the U2s are important. Another thing you can practice something like just F primes with left index finger. These also come in very handy because Fmove inserts are very good for saving rotations, which for reducing rotations, which I'll get into later. Another thing you should practice is specific triggers that come up often in F2L cases. So some examples are like RU, R prime, RU prime, R prime, RU2, R prime, RU2 prime, R prime. Like has sledgehammer, RU, R prime, U prime, RU prime, RU, just a bunch of stuff like that, and like inverse sledgehammer. Those are pretty important to practice too. I think to actually do so, I think you just kind of spam it and do like just 20. You just kind of like do it a bunch of times on each F2L side or something. Like just like do this a lot. I guess like around 20 times each, and you want to do it 20 times on all sides, not like 100 on the same side, because that way you'll kind of like keep the pieces balanced, and then one side won't be like super fast. Because if you do that, then it'll just be the puzzle will be uneven. Another way to improve your F2L and S2L is to limit your rotations, similar to how I mentioned it in the cross part in the star part of this video. One way you can do that is, let's say I have this pair set up, purple yellow. It goes like this. Now here this first part's gonna be like what I call a wide insert. Now here, if I can insert the pair like this. If I just loop around, like I'm here and I can like loop around and then insert, but that's very, very slow because I did 2 rotations. So what I want to do now, one thing you can do is kind of like just do have this slot in the far back, and then do a not an R prime U insert. You have to do 2 R prime insert. And just getting used to wide inserts like that will help you limit your rotations. Another way you can limit your rotations is by doing Fmove inserts. I mentioned to start this in the previous video, but here I'll give an example. So I'm gonna do this will apply to the yellow blue pair. So it's just this F2L case. So just pair it up. And what I can do from here, is kind of like do 2 rotations to insert it like this. But that's not really all that great, because from here, if I do that, I'm here, and then like the 2 pairs are here. And I don't really have a very good view of like anything. So what I can do instead is like from here. I have the pair form here. I can instead just rotate once and then do U2. Insert this with an F move. This view isn't very good for the rest of the F2L pieces either, but it's it's closer to this part, which is where the rest of the F2L is. And here's another example of a wide insert. So instead of looping around, I'm just going to do this much faster. Wide move inserts are especially useful in S2L because for each like segment of S2L, you'll have like a close pair and a far pair. If I have this red edge, I have a close pair here and a far pair here. For green, close pair. This is a far pair. Close pair is something I can insert without like rotating from this perspective, while far pair is something I have to rotate for. And if purple, I have like this here. This is close, this is far. So basically, there's like one far pair for each segment of S2L. So in a way, like half of your pairs are far in S2L. So you need to do wide inserts for those. And for this case in particular, the blue purple, what you would do is just do R U prime R prime, do U, and then do the wide insert, which happens to also be an F move insert. So both of the ideas come into play there. What you want to practice is just like recognizing such cases, so that when you have this in a solve, you can do it in one quick motion like this. You can practice all of this by doing more untimed solves, as I mentioned in the previous video, because I think it's a pretty good habit to get into, because I still use them today, even at the sub 40, because a lot of the improvement from sub 115 to beyond involves just finding more efficient solutions. For Megaminx last layer, by now you should know full CO and full CP. I mentioned that you should start those sets in the previous video for 130. So if you're like 110 trying to get to 1, you should know them fairly well. And then that includes the 5 cycles, even though they look kind of crazy. Another thing you should also do is you should like kind of like double your number of OLOs and PLOs by learning some non-edges oriented or edges permuted cases. For learning the PLOs, you can just go to my PLO series and go up to like video 6. Gives you like 34 AUGs, which includes all the CPLO, so it's like 19 extra. And then some are 3x3 PLO transfer, so it's really only like 9 or 10 AUGs that are new to learn. For OLO, you should just kind of like go on the OLO pages and just pick out some AUGs that look pretty easy to recognize. Um, mostly stuff that you mostly stuff that have equivalents on 3x3, something like this. This is pretty recognizable, and this has like a mirror and stuff. If you do like stuff, if you do if you do triggers like this, like through rough, you get like 1, 2, 3. It adds up. So you just do some simple stuff like that. Don't make it too complicated. Also, don't spend too much time looking for Megaminx last layer AUGs to learn, because most of your improvement comes from F2O and S2O, and you can only improve your last layer by so much at this point, unless you happen to just learn everything at this point, which I do not recommend. Thanks for watching. This video is kind of long, but fortunately I don't think the next few videos will be as long, so stay tuned for those, and bye.